Welcome to the Wired for Success podcast, your show for ambitious, mission-driven entrepreneurs who want to build million-dollar businesses without sacrificing their health, relationships, or happiness, who understand that in order to build their empire, they need a solid foundation, and that the more they are thriving, the more their business is thriving too. This show brings you the very best from science, self-development, and entrepreneurship to set you up for sustainable success. Hi, I'm Claudia Garbutt, the scientist turned mindset and high performance coach for entrepreneurs, and I help you get wired for success. Hey everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Wired for Success podcast, where we talk about all things science, self-development, and entrepreneurship that help you get to that next level of success in your life and business. My guest today is Lori Turner Wilson, a powerhouse who's flipping the traditional marketing agency model on its head. She's the international best-selling author of the B2B Marketing Revolution and the founder of RedRover, one of the only full-service B2B agencies in the US that guarantees client ROI. In the sea of vague promises, Lori brings metrics, method, and momentum. Her firm doesn't just market, they train sales teams, design growth engines, and deliver results. Welcome, Lori, and thank you so much for being on my show today.
It's a pleasure to be here, Claudia. I've been looking forward to today's chat.
Me too. So I like to start by going back to the initial spark. What was the moment, or maybe the wound, that made you realize that the marketing industry needed a revolution?
Well, I actually realized my love for marketing and started my own business at the age of 13, if you can believe that.
What?
I actually started from a place of a debilitating fear. I had a fear of dogs that was brought on just by an encounter with a very large dog at a very young age. And I was determined that I would overcome this fear. And the business that I started was a dog show, of all things. And I solicited my friends throughout the neighborhood and had them create flyers. And we went door to door, and it was very well attended. We marketed it very well before I even knew what marketing was, and earned a tidy profit of $13.50. And I thought, this is for me. Marketing would always be what I loved, even before I really knew what it was. And if you fast forward then to degree in marketing, out of school, spent my years, my next 15 years out of school leading enterprise Fortune 500 marketing and communications teams. And in those roles, I had the opportunity to hire some of the top 10 largest ad agencies and marketing firms in this country. And Claudia, they were wildly creative, blew my socks off from a creation and an innovation perspective. But they were equally uninterested in being held accountable to metrics that actually mattered, such as incremental gross profit, which is what I was always held accountable to. And so for years, I tried to drag these agencies into peak performance and accountability. And it finally dawned on me, the light bulb went off, that I should build what I couldn't find and work to raise the bar in this industry that I love along the way. And in 2006, my agency, RedRover, was born, and it's been an absolute labor of love. And since then, I've laid witness to countless CEOs and founders and entrepreneurs wasting precious resources and time on marketing strategies that frankly aren't worth the paper that they're printed on. And so I started devising this framework that could be used to create scalable, predictable marketing engines. The framework that I always used in my enterprise marketing days, but scaled to small and mid-sized companies that need it most. And ultimately landed on the 12 Battles framework, which is at the heart of the book that we'll talk about today, which is the playbook for how an entrepreneur can create predictable outcomes within their organization. So
I'd love to hear more about those 12 steps. But first, thank you so much for sharing. What an inspiring story. That's incredible. I mean, at the age of 13 that you started, and you really started with like working on your fear. That's not something a typical 13-year-old would do, right? So why do you think you chose that path? Like what made you different?
There's a couple things. One is there's a desire at that age to not be that different, right? And when you have a fear of dogs at the age of 13, it really limits what you're able to do with your life. And I was determined that I wouldn't allow that limitation to hold me back. And at the right time, my parents had the had they knew that they needed to get me involved in an organization that would pull me out of my shell. And so they put me into the Girl Scouts, and the Girl Scouts organization taught me leadership. It taught me how to overcome fears. It taught me to do public speaking, something at that age I'd never dreamed I would do. But it's some of those early decisions that I made and that my family made for me, understanding that fear was holding me back. They gave me the opportunity to enter a program that would help me through that.
That's great. It sounds like you had a very supportive family.
I did.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, going back to your book. So most agency owners, as you said, they tolerate fuzzy metrics. So why do you think apathy became acceptable in this space? And why or how do you go about this differently?
I think there's apathy because most CEOs, entrepreneurs, they have this whole history of experience, decades of experience, where they've seen marketing plans fail. They don't see a strong return on investment. And we just accepted that as status quo as entrepreneurs, and that's unfortunate. But there's a reason behind that. I mean, that skepticism comes from a place of authenticity. So we started when in my early days of RedRover 19 years ago, we started tracking a number of metrics for every one of our clients. And one of those metrics is what % of their marketing plan was wasted due to lack of sufficient market research. And so once we conducted our research protocol and then determined what elements of their strategy weren't working for them, we would test the effectiveness of our research by turning off the investment to all of those strategies the research pointed to not being a good investment. We would wait the length of their sales cycle, and there would be no impact on the leads that they were generating and the growth of their organization. So we knew, in fact, that number is true. So if that holds true across your listener base, and 60% of their companies, your entrepreneurs listening are experiencing similarly 60% of their marketing budget wasted, that's the reason for the skepticism that exists in our market. And most agencies are run by creatives, right? Artists. It attracts, this industry attracts artists. And there's also a science side of marketing, and too few organizations in my field understand the data science behind marketing, the analytical side. I'm an analytic. And so my agency is structured in a wholly different way in order to make sure that we're delivering outcomes. And the book will show your listeners how to do this for themselves as well.
That sounds amazing. Can you walk us through the main points in your book, or maybe your favorite one, the one that everyone should walk away with?
Yeah. Oh, well, there's many. Let's see. So the book is structured around the 12 battles framework. And what that means is there are 12 battles in mindset, in my experience, that every CEO, founder, entrepreneur needs to overcome, battles they need to win in order to achieve true predictability in their marketing engine, true scalability in that marketing engine. And it's by working with more than 300 entrepreneurs over the nearly 2 decades we've been in business. These are the shifts in mindset, the common themes that I can see from client to client to client. And so the 12 battles framework is really wrapped around that. What are those mindset shifts that we need to overcome? And right at the top of the list is you have to accept that you deserve and will achieve guaranteed marketing outcomes. And there's a whole industry, my industry, telling you that that's impossible. You can't. An agency can't stand behind their outcomes because they don't control the whole conversion process, right? They don't control the sales team and what actually will convert. And it's an art and a science. And how can you predict something as unpredictable as consumer behavior, or something as fickle as consumer behavior? And the reality is you can predict your outcomes within a reasonable margin of error with the right market research protocol. Your customers will point the way by looking at their transaction data historically, where they've invested their money, their engagement triggers up to this point, and then well-executed market research to uncover where they intend to spend their dollars, what decisions they intend to act on going forward. You can back into true predictability, and it's a shame that more of my industry isn't really following that line.
Yeah, it sounds like you really love your data.
I do.
So is it the data that give you the confidence to really promise those results when others won't?
It's really three or four things. So yes, the market research is a huge component. But without that foundation, you don't have a hope or a prayer of having true predictability in your marketing. But you also need strategists that are great at trend spotting, that can look across a sea of data, because there are hundreds and hundreds of data points that we collect. You've got to be able to identify the most meaningful trends that will drive measurable returns at the end of the day. But with the research in place and that strategy in place, you need contingency plans for every single strategy. If it doesn't achieve the metrics that you projected, what is the A level contingency, the B contingency, the C, so that you're always setting yourself up for success. And then the last piece of this is, are you relentlessly optimizing every single strategy in your plan to make sure you're eking out more and more return on investment? And so that means testing every conceivable variable. So with an email campaign, the simplest of them, right, to talk about, you can be testing every single week, call to action, offer. You can test your content, your visuals, the day of week you send, the time of day you spend, all of that. And think about every single strategy in your marketing toolbox can be tested in a similar fashion. So it's a combination of those elements that really allow for true predictability. And we're always in my industry looking for shortcuts. What's the fastest, the cheapest way that we can get this done? And we miss the fundamentals. And with the fundamentals, you can actually allow marketing to be this repeatable and predictable for you, but it can be a distinct competitive advantage, marketing by itself. And that's where it gets fun.
It also sounds like it could be exhausting, just keeping track of all those different metrics, or even choosing which ones to focus on first. So what metrics do entrepreneurs obsess over that are basically noise, and which metrics are maybe the unsung heroes that they should focus on?
What I really want to see entrepreneurs focused on first is an accurate marketing ROI or MROI. And usually those calculations are missing some hidden costs. So they need to include the cost of your internal marketing team, your external marketing team, any of that labor. It needs to include your platform cost. It needs to include photography, videography, all those ancillary costs, and not just the cost of your ad spend. And you need to look at ROI based on gross profit and not top line revenue, because it doesn't matter if we're bringing it in the door if we're not pricing it correctly in order to get a strong margin. So ROI is at the top of the list, but the other two critical metrics that every CEO and entrepreneur ought to be asking of their marketing team is, what's my cost to acquire a customer? And it's surprising to me that 90% of the clients that I encounter don't have a calculation for that today. But the book outlines how to calculate all of these things. So cost to acquire customer, critical. You want to continuously be driving that down. And the lifetime value of your customer. You need to know what an average customer is spending with you in gross profit a year, and how many years they usually spend with you, so you understand the true profitability opportunity in front of you when you're considering what's a reasonable cost to acquire a customer that I'm willing to invest. And sure, you can look at all of the reach and the frequency and the engagement and conversions and all of that for every channel. But at a macro level, as an entrepreneur, as a CEO, those are the top three metrics that you really want to keep your eye on.
So if someone is completely overwhelmed, where should they start? Like, what's the first step to figure out which of those handles to turn, or what to focus on?
It's really fascinating when you execute the market research protocol that I've outlined in the book. It gives you the playbook. The path will seem clear once you've executed that. And so there's a qualitative and a quantitative research protocol outlined in the book. And by the way, we also have a boot camp where we can teach your team to execute this protocol on their own. And there's a special promo code just for your listeners. If they go to marketingresultsguaranteed.com/podcast and use the promo code podcast, there's 20% off of a boot camp in there. So there's a boot camp that can teach your team how to do that. But the book also lays out, again, what this research protocol is. And it starts with really effective internal and external stakeholder interviews. And there's interview guides referenced in the book. So you're going to talk to your customers, your lost customers, your prospective customers. You're going to learn how they see your positioning in the market, how you stack up against the competition. You're also going to conduct competitive surveillance. And there is all kinds of perfectly legal competitive surveillance that you can do these days. The digital marketing strategy of your competition is largely out there for you to discover. And there's a variety of platforms referenced in the book that will give your listeners the tools that they need to figure out where their competitors are spending money and likely where it's paying off for them. So there's the interview process, there's the competitive side of it. There's also, you're going to do a marketing plan audit to understand the effectiveness of everything that you've executed on the marketing front and how it stacks up to industry benchmarks. You're going to want to do a deep assessment of all of your transaction data to identify trends. Who are the most profitable customers? Demographically, what do they look like? Psychographically, what do they look like? And who else in the database looks like them that we could target to grow the relationship? And ultimately, you're going to take all of these findings and either validate or invalidate them against a statistically valid sample size in the form of a market survey. And so I know that seems like a lot if you've never waded into market research before, but find a partner or hire a freelancer or hire an agency that has research protocol like mine does. In fact, in the book, there are 20 questions you should ask any agency contender who you may be talking to about a research protocol and a strategy setting process for marketing to make sure that you get your money's worth at the end of the day.
I love how strategic you are with your approach. And you really, as you said, you integrate sales coaching with marketing strategy. So why do you think that this hybrid model is so critical for predicting outcomes for your clients?
It's a great question. And I spent the better part of my career in enterprise marketing watching sales and marketing at odds with each other. Sales blaming marketing for the lack of qualified leads, marketing blaming sales for not closing a perfectly good lead, right? It happens in so many companies. And it's when sales and marketing are in lockstep that you really see efficiency and you see the cost to acquire a customer go down dramatically. And so because we're an ROI-driven firm and we actually guarantee a specific projected ROI for our clients every quarter, our clients have to convert those leads or we're not achieving our goals at the end of the day. And so we're integrated with the sales team, and your listeners should be integrating marketing and sales together. Marketing needs to shadow the sales team. They need to hear firsthand, what are customers objecting to? What's the feedback we're getting about our offer strategy, our pricing model, our unique presence in the market, whatever that brand positioning is? Marketing needs to hear that directly, and sales and marketing messaging needs to be in full alignment. And so if deals aren't closing, it's not because salespeople don't want to close deals. They're commission-based, right? They're motivated. There's something missing. It is either the not quite the right type of lead, or the messaging isn't breaking through, and marketing can support them with that. So I think the two have to work in lockstep.
That makes perfect sense. Now, learned helplessness is a real thing, especially for business owners who have been burned by bad marketing. So how do you rewire a client's belief system around what's even possible for them?
Oh, that's great. That's a great expression too. I haven't heard that before. It's really true when it comes to what you know or think you know about your customer. And so as entrepreneurs, and I'm one, so I get this. I was raised by an entrepreneur for a father. I understand this mentality. When you live, eat, and breathe your business, on some level, you think no one can know more about my customer than I do, right?
Yeah.
And even if you believe in market research, and you really believe on some level that no one could. And we are beautifully biased and incredibly subjective when it comes to our own business. We couldn't possibly bring the level of objectivity that great market research requires. And your results guarantee plan is banking on that. So the first hurdle that I'm working with CEOs to get through is to get past that belief on some level. I know that belief exists. We have to get past that before we can really discover what's possible. So your market research protocol, you need somebody from the outside giving you at least oversight into that to make sure that you remove that bias and get true answers at the end of the day, because customers often aren't willing to share with you, the person they're buying from, the root cause of why they don't do business with you or why they're choosing a competitor over you. And they might cite price at the end of the day because that's the least conflict avoidant. So That's my thought.
Yeah, I think we're all too close to our own businesses.
Right?
And we need someone to mirror back what's really like the blind spots we have. You said it, or I read somewhere that you said anyone standing in the way of results can be lovingly removed. So how do you distinguish between, say, resistance that needs compassion versus resistance that needs a hard boundary?
That's really great. So resistance is usually because of lack of tools and a framework. So when we come into new client organizations and we're beginning to partner with their marketing team, and really we want both our fees and their compensation to be tied to outcomes at the end of the day. So we're all rowing in the same direction. And often that elicits a lot of fear, as you might imagine. But it's because they don't have the framework. And leadership has invested in the market research that can allow them to have predictability behind it. But when they understand the data points that you can collect through that research and how to tie that to strategy setting and how you can predict within each channel what your return will be within a reasonable margin of error, a lot of that fear goes away. And so it's understandable, but with the framework, great marketers really should be willing to stand behind their projected outcomes, have the courage and conviction to do it. But as I mentioned before, my field attracts a lot of artists, right? We need artists in this field. The artist side of someone in my space is going to be probably terrified of the idea of true predictability because the art side of it can't be predicted. You need those data scientists on board that can bring that true predictability at the end of the day. And from an agency perspective, there's no excuse not to require your agency to stand behind their projected outcomes.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now, as you said, you have to hire different experts. You have to have those creatives. You have to have the data scientists. So your company only hires seasoned experts. So how do you build, say, cohesion and momentum when everyone on the team has years of experience and probably strong opinions? So how do you pull all of that together?
So there's a process we go through, which is really sort of the glue that holds the agency together and brings, teams with disparate views together onto the same page. And it's called the War Room Strategy Debate. And it's just a fun internal process that we go through for strategy setting. In fact, we use a Hunger Games theme to it to make it really fun. And you'll see all of that in my book, by the way. But this process is designed to make sure that disparate voices are heard. So the artist and the scientist, right? Mm-hmm. There's 10 marketing specialties, generally 10, that you need to have in the room if you're thinking about a full-scale marketing strategy for your company. And those 10 specialists, they need to be specialists, not jack of all trades that do a little bit of everything. They need to be deeply specialized in search engine optimization and pay-per-click advertising and event and trade show marketing, email marketing, SMS marketing. All 10 specialties of marketing need to be at the table. And what they do is you want them going through all of the research you've pulled together, and then they bring to the table the 3 strategies within their specialty they believe are most likely to scale the company. And so they are presenting those ideas. They're sharing the projected ROI, the assumptions they used in those calculations. And everyone is collaborating, number 1, to fully vet that idea. Number 2, to find ways to iteratively improve it in the moment. So if everyone has input into the ultimate strategy, you get a lot more buy-in. And the artist and the scientists work together because the end goal is simply to elevate. For us, it's to elevate our clients' return on investment. For your listeners, it's to elevate their own return on investment. So that's the process we do. That's the beginning of every client engagement. And that's what we do to create cohesion across the entire organization.
That sounds amazing. And it sounds like a lot of fun, to be honest.
It is. Clients always want to be a part of that, but we keep them at bay, and we do a recap for them of everything afterwards because I need my team to not feel restricted in what they say. No holds barred, say everything on their mind in the room. It's a really fun process.
Yeah. Now, when you're scaling your business, how do you grow whilst protecting your own health, joy, and relationships? So what are your personal high performance habits that help you stay happy, healthy, and productive?
Well, part of this repeatable marketing engine actually creates greater health because it allows you to know at what clip am I going to be scaling my operation over the next year. And I know from watching my hardworking entrepreneur of a father his whole life, what it's like to carry that weight of company performance. I watched it my whole life. And he tried, Claudia, not to bring that pressure and that anxiety home to his family. But as his daughters, we knew, right? We could see it. We knew that it was there. And so if the commitments that you make to your employees for payroll and to grow the organization so that they have growth opportunities, the stress and the pressure begins to subside when you know that $10 in marketing will produce $100 in profit at the end of the day, and you know the strategies that will get you there. So part of this cause I'm on to create these repeatable marketing engines, it all stems from that pressure and anxiety that my father felt as an entrepreneur and trying to, alleviate that for like entrepreneurs across the country. Now, personally, what I do to stay centered and grounded is I meditate. I make sure that I have time to really think about what I'm grateful for every day. My business is hard. Marketing changes every day. It is one of the most dynamic fields out there, and it really takes a lot of stamina in order to stay current and make sure you're delivering the strongest return on investment of any agency that we compete with. But if I stay grateful and I have time to meditate and really think through what's most important in the day, in the week, in the month, in my life, I find that everything else just settles down.
Yeah, it's so important to stick with the right mindset and not get overwhelmed by all the changes around you, right?
Yeah.
Now, imagine you're writing your next book, but it's a manifesto for entrepreneurs who refuse to sacrifice health or joy for their success. What's the first line of that book?
Oh, I think the first line in the book is, if you want to see a revolution in your life, you have to be revolutionary in the way you think about crafting your strategy, your life strategy.
Love it. I see the next book coming up on the horizon. Is there anything else that you would like to share with our listeners today?
I think it's just to expect more. You think about operations and sales and all these divisions of your company, and you hold that team accountable to the metrics that they achieve. You expect them to have predictability. If we approached marketing in the way that we approach financial projections, then we'd be in much better shape. So expect more, arm your team with the education and framework to deliver true predictability, and then stand firm and hold them accountable. And if they don't want to be accountable with all of that, find the right people who will.
Amen to that. So last but not least, where can our listeners find you online if they would like to learn more about you or maybe work with you?
Absolutely. We're at marketingresultsguaranteed.com. And if you add a /podcast, there's a page full of resources for your listeners, including 50 tools and templates and scripts and all the things that will allow you to execute this 12 battles framework are all free to your listeners on that page. And as a reminder, if they'll use the code podcast, the special discount code podcast, there's a couple of special offers on there as well.
Oh, fantastic. That's so generous. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. Lori, thank you so much for sharing all those tips and insights with us today. This was so much fun.
Thanks for the invitation. I had a ball, Claudia.
Keep up the great work. Take care and talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Wired for Success podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you did, please take a sec to rate and review my show or share it with a friend. That way you can support the show and help me reach and support other entrepreneurs like yourself as well. If you would like my help to figure out how you can go from overwhelmed and overworked hustler to empowered and confident leader, check out my website at www.wiredforsuccess.solutions and book a free 20-minute strategy session with me. Can't wait to help you get wired for success. Until next time, take care. Bye.